What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The name of the show is Politics on My Mind, and I'm the host, Troy Griffith. Let's get the show started. It's going to be a good one.
All of you know who I am.
Yeah, what's poppin', ladies and gentlemen? You're tuned into Politics on My Mind, and I am the host, Troy Griffith. This is episode 183. If you would like to listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, you can do so at SoundCloud, Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes. Just go into the search bar, type in Politics on My Mind, hit that subscribe button. If you would like to follow the podcast on Twitter, you can do so at POMM Podcast. And once again, that's on the Bluebird Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, today is Monday, September 28, 2020, and I would like to welcome you to the only political podcast for the hip-hop generation. And as always, I got to tell you about the website, politicsonmymind.com. politicsonmymind.com. Check it out. Yo, here's something I did, yo. Word up. So the last episode, right, you could have checked it out on YouTube. I actually put the last episode on YouTube. And I'll just say, I use GarageBand. For those of you who are familiar, I use GarageBand to record these episodes. And I promise you, GarageBand has to do better. It took 4 hours for it to convert into an MP4 so I can put it onto YouTube. Somebody out there probably know a better way, a shorter way, a quicker way. But if I do it on GarageBand, that's how long it takes. But it's up there. Episode 182. That's the first episode. It went up on YouTube. It's all good. It's not a video. It's like an art, and the audio is playing. So that's what I did there. As always, I must tell you, register to vote. Register to vote. After you register to vote, I need you to request your absentee ballot. Early voting will begin. I need you to get out there and do that for me, for your community, for yourself. I need you to do that. And there's early voting happening all around the country. And I'm going to tell you every week until we get to the election. So do not think, because we're in a pandemic, over 200,000 people have died, right? Do not think of the election like you've thought about it in previous years. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is this, that in previous elections, you waited until election day. However, this time around, I need you to vote early because it's a pandemic. And there are a few states that you can vote early. Minnesota, South Dakota, Virginia, Vermont, Michigan. All of these states now allow you to vote early until November 2nd, except for Virginia. You can vote early in Virginia all the way up to October 31st. Get out there. Vote early. Vote this motherfucker out. Because this dude is, man, to quote Reverend Dr. William Barber, this dude is criminality, personified criminality. Like, he's it's wild. Anyway, your census. Fill out your census. I've been telling you for the longest, fill out your census. It's important to your community. It's important to you. It's important to everything around you. School, housing, infrastructure, whatever it is. Fill the census out. It takes, they say it takes 10 minutes, but honestly, I think it takes like 5 minutes to do. It's quick, to the point. They already have all your information. And for those of you out there who be like, yo, I don't want the government to have my information, they already got it. What's that on a Conway the Machine album, From King to a God? One of the songs, he's like, yo, why you gotta have the gun? Because I already got it. Biting off of, not biting, but sampling Tupac and Juice. Why you gotta always have the gun? Because I already got it. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. They already got it, right? You got an iPhone? You got a smartphone? They already got it. You picking off networks. They know where you going, right? You walk up the block, they know where you going. You go down the block, they know where you going. You understand? You don't got a cell phone. Guess what? You got something in your name. You ever been to a hospital? They know where you live. You know what I mean? So, and that's for the people who be like government, conspiracy theorists or whatever. You know what I mean? I hate the word conspiracy theorist. I really do. It's the stupidest word ever created. A conspiracy theory is nothing but a lie, right? So just use the word. Hey, that's a lie, right? Because the thing about, I'm getting off track here, but walk with me. The thing about a conspiracy theory is, you can't prove it whether it's true. Like somebody be like, but how you know? How you know? So it's a stupid lie. It's like it's something that people come up with that, I'll say this. When somebody come up with a conspiracy theory, what I say to myself, and look, we all have them little small ones here, but the people who be like consistently have them, I be like, they don't ever read at all. They just think. Like they be in their own head. But here's the thing. Fill out the census. Don't be in your own head. Fill out the census. Don't worry about them tracking you. That's not important. What's important is getting money for your schools, infrastructure, a community center, the elderly in your community, all that good stuff, man. So fill that out. You know what I mean? And I got into talking about, should I talk about this now or should I wait till later? I'll wait till later because I feel like it all comes together. And if I start going into it right now, then, you know what I mean? Anyway, the biggest story that broke, I would argue, this week, because it came out, I believe it was yesterday, right? Sunday, right? September 27th. Today is Monday, September 28th, 2020, is that the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, his original family name was Drumpf. Look it up, Drumpf. And his family changed the name because when they came to the United States, you heard what I said, when they came to the United States, it wasn't popular to be German. So they assimilated and they became white. So here we are. We have a hardcore baby Hitler. And, I refrained from actually calling him that for years. But Vice broke a story about how, over at the border, they were doing forced hysterectomy on women. And I was like, this dude is baby Hitler. That's happened under your watch, bro. But anyway, here we are. We're stuck with him, right, until the election, hopefully. And, so it came out, he hasn't paid his taxes. And everyone got up in arms. I'm seeing all the jokes on the Twitters, seeing all the jokes. Oh, he didn't pay his taxes. Jokes. I haven't seen anyone said the crooked ass legal system that we have allowed this man to not have ever paid taxes for at least the past 30 years, right? So think about that, possibly even 40. So for at least the past 30 years, he hasn't paid taxes. And they said the most he's paid within the last few years has been $750. And if he hasn't paid taxes, you're breaking the law because you're making millions of dollars and you should be paying taxes. So it's tax evasion, allegedly, that he's been doing, right? So here's the thing. I couldn't care less about Donald Trump because, hopefully, we don't go into a dictatorship. He has to leave office, whether it's one term or two term. He has to leave office. But what we will have in perpetuity is the legal system. And if anything, this proves, if there was no other proof. Remember, I talked about conspiracy theories. Like, conspiracy theories don't have proof, but here is the truth. That this is proof that the legal system is corrupt in the United States. Because, and I will go down the list, Lauryn Hill, Fat Joe, Wesley Snipes, right? All these people, I believe Lil Wayne, all these people who went to jail, went to prison because they didn't pay their taxes. And here is this man, the first president of the United States that has German, that is of German descent. I never hear anyone say that at all. I feel like one day I need to call in one of these shows and say, how come no one ever says that he's the first president of the United States with German, that is of German descent? I don't know. Anyway, right? So if this proves that the legal system is looking at someone whose family assimilated into the United States like most people did. Most people white skinned. They just became white. You ask them where their grandparents are from, Italy. You ask them where their grandparents are from, Spain. You ask them where their grandparents are from, Cuba. You assimilated because your skin is white. And in the words of Paul Mooney, you have the complexion for the protection, right? And I know I'm sounding a little off, but I'm not. That's the whole thing. It sounds off because it's not off. It's like this man was able not to pay taxes, and it's all good. Nothing has happened to him. Who was the governor at that time? George Pataki. Who was the mayor at that time? Ed Koch. Ed Koch did go after him, though. I'm just going to say that, mayor of New York. Rudy Giuliani. You know what I mean? Who was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York? Rudy Giuliani. Who was the attorney general? All that. It's all right there. It's all right there. It's a corrupt system. And this is just not New York. The entire country has a corrupt legal system. You got Robert Kraft, who is the CEO of the New England Patriots, went into a rub and tug, if you will, and allegedly got a rub and tug. And the court said, you cannot release the video. No other reason other than this guy is a multimillionaire. And if you release the video, that's not what we do. We do that for poor people. We don't do that for wealthy people. You see what I'm saying? So the charges were dropped because they could not produce the video, right? So they can't prove the prosecutor can't prove what they have on video. Right? They can't prove their case unless they show the video. And if we can't show the video, we can't prove our case. And I'm laughing because shit like this happens every single day in courtrooms, well, pre-pandemic, in courtrooms across the country for black, brown, poor, middle-class people where we do not have the luxury. And notice, I'm not wealthy. I'm not rich. We do not have the luxury of having the court system have our back. So that was the news that broke this week, that he didn't pay his taxes. But here's what I say. That's not the news. The news is we already know this, we need to change our legal system. It's corrupt. You understand? And after Donald Trump leave office, it's imperative that we do so. Simple and plain. Had he been held criminally accountable for all these years, we would not have to deal with the truth that's before us, that he will get to appoint another Supreme Court justice. That's 3, right? He appointed Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh. Now he's nominated Amy Coney Barrett to take Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. Here we are. Had he been held accountable, we probably would have had another Republican doing it, because the Democrats, and I've said it before, they're a bunch of pussies, right? The Democratic Party does not fight for their base like the Republicans fight for themselves. Notice, I didn't say the Republican base. The Republican Party, they'll give you a judge, they'll stick to abortion here and there, but they fight for themselves. And the Democratic Party has not... I've said it before. The Republican Party is fighting for white supremacy. What is the Democratic Party fighting for? The Republican Party, I say it again, the Republican Party is fighting to maintain white supremacy. What is the Democratic Party fighting for? And not just this election, moving forward. It needs to change. And, I want to keep talking about it, but I have to save it because it's all going to come together. But, you know what I mean? It has to change, and that's important. And one of the beginnings of those things is the debate that will be tomorrow between Joe Biden. Let me say their names. Joseph R. Biden, who was the former vice president under President Barack Obama, and the incumbent president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. You understand? The debate will be on Fox News, or otherwise known as Propaganda Network, and it will be moderated by Mike Wallace. And no, not Mike Wallace, that's his name. Right, he will be. I can't believe it. I think I'm thinking of his dad, and his dad was his dad was a 60-minute reporter. So I think I'm confusing him. I think it's Mike Wallace, man. Yeah, Chris Wallace. Excuse me, Chris Wallace. His dad was Mike Wallace, right? So here's the thing. Chris Wallace will be moderating the debates. But here's the other thing. Chris Wallace is part of Fox News. So they say he's tough, but he's part of a network that's propaganda. So how tough can he be? We will have to see. And some of the topics they're discussing, if you will, I'll tell you the debate topics in a second. The presidential debate topics, right? You would think that these topics, you know, came out of thin air, but they didn't. But because there's a commission that had to first agree on this. So the topics includes the Trump and Biden records, the Supreme Court, which is not a thing anymore because Trump is going to get to it. Now, it's just part of the process. It's how power works. But I get to that in a second. You know, Trump is going to nominate this woman, and she's going to be confirmed. COVID-19, which Trump completely failed. He said it was deadly stuff. He knew about it. He did nothing. The economy, which is trash. I would hope that former Vice President Joe Biden say to Donald Trump, name me a policy that you passed, name me a bill that you signed that became law that gave us the economy that we have now. Name me a policy that the Republican Party has put forward that gave us the economy we had before the pandemic. I know the policy that you put forward that gave us the economy we have now, a fucked up economy on top of a pandemic, and that's because, well, I'll say this, a fucked up economy below a pandemic because you did nothing. So your policy was let people die and should it be okay. It didn't work, right? I would love for Joe Biden to say this, and I'm gonna save the most controversial one for last. The integrity of the election. This is like asking, what's the saying? Don't let the wolf guard the hen house, something like that, right? This is like asking that wolf that's guarding the hen house, how will you keep it safe? The integrity of the election. You're asking him about it. He's been back and forth about this. And this is over at debates.org, the Commission on Presidential Debates. And they had this up as of September 22nd. So it's like asking this guy about the integrity of election is a waste of time. And the last one is race and violence in our cities. Race and violence in our cities. I don't know about you, but when I look out the window, I don't see violence. I don't see race. Or is Usain Bolt making a return that I don't know about? Please help me out. Right? Is Usain Bolt running along violence at some point in whose city? Right? In Native American cities? I don't know. Because who's our, right? This land belongs to Native Americans. But that's what it's going to be. Tune in. It'll be held at the Case Western Reserve University and Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. The format for the first debate calls for 6 15-minute time segments dedicated to topics announced in advance in order to encourage deep discussion of the leading issues facing the country. And here we are. It starts at 9 p.m. and it will run for 90 minutes. Here's how it will go, right? Let me demonstrate how the debates will go. It will go like this. It will have, Joe Biden being all articulate, to the point, breaking down policy, saying what he's going to do, what he did under President Barack Obama, all that stuff, eloquent, articulate, to the point, concise, all of that. Then you will have Donald Trump just saying shit. He'll just say incoherent stuff. Then the next day he's going to go to Twitter early in the morning and he's going to be tweeting, and then the media is going to cover that and then talk about who won the debate. Like, yo, this guy is not even a professional in terms of having debates, right? So it's like, why ask who won? The question is, who sound more coherent in their argument? Who sounded the most intelligent? That's what we should be asking ourselves. So hopefully you tune in. I'll be tuning in. Unfortunately, I like this shit, so I tune into it. Trust me, I don't want to watch the car crash. I just want to be able to drive past it like most of you. In news that will affect us all, I didn't cover any black women at the top of the news. Bear with me. I'll get there. Starting October 1st, if you live in the state of Maryland, foam containers for carryout will be banned. Not everyone is happy, according to the Baltimore Sun. As the coronavirus pandemic continues to shift, much restaurant dining from eat-in to takeout, Maryland next week becomes the first state in the nation to ban the familiar foam containers used to carry home everything from crab cakes to curries. I guess that means curry out. I don't know. But here's the thing. Most businesses are like, yo, what you doing? This is going to cost me money to switch from this to that, right? And it's like, I can't do this. What are you talking about? And according to this article, the new law comes at a time when restaurants are using mountains of disposables for takeout, but also to follow federal health recommendations that they give even dining customers single-use plates and utensils. So here's the thing. It's problematic because for the businesses, I have to now give plastic utensils to my customers because they can't eat from the little metal utensils anymore, right? And trash collection has swelled across America, rising 22% in Baltimore at the height of the pandemic. More people are home. You understand? So, and this is on top of that. Come January 1st is a 60-cent increase in the hourly minimum wage. So this is on top of businesses, and businesses like, yo, we can't handle this. But here's the thing. The economy, man, not the economy, the environment. That's the important part. Where the environment can't take any more of this styrofoam, they need biodegradable stuff, right? And it's important because, you know, I feel like when people talk about climate change, they only have the conversation from a Earth view, right? Meaning it's bad for the planet. We know that. I'm not saying don't do that, but they need to bring it home like today to right now. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you have styrofoam going into the environment and it's getting hotter, the air is getting gloomy like California, places like India, places like China where the air quality is terrible, that tends to affect poor communities, right? So, and it's been shown that rich communities, really have minimal impact because of air quality. The air quality tends to be great, right? So when we talk about climate change, I feel like it needs to be brought home to people and say, yo, the reason this community has asthma is because of bad air quality. I'm not saying that's not said. Clearly I know about it, so it's been said. I remember being a kid in New York, and they were talking about in Harlem. Harlem had the highest majority of people with black kids with asthma because due to the air quality, right? So, but for most people, when they have this conversation, they're just like, oh, the environment will fix itself. Yeah, you are right. The earth will correct itself. The problem is, as it corrects out itself, it's going to kill us, right? So I understand businesses being upset about this, but I would argue this. Would you rather take the hit now or lose customers later? And, think about the 200,000 people we lost. And don't think of them in like an economy type of way. Think of the lives that they led. You understand? And they were business owners, outside of being, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, right? They were business owners. They benefited their community, right? They brought a positive impact. Majority of them brought a positive impact to their community, right? So when you lose people like that because of a pandemic that could have been avoided, right? It's like you sit and wonder, if we can avoid things, we should avoid them. And if we can avoid losing people to climate change because we don't want to switch over to styrofoam, I think we should do that, right? If we can avoid losing people by switching to styrofoam, of course. And here's the next thing, y'all. Those styrofoam, when you have food in them and the food is hot and you're eating it, so you're eating your food, right? And you scrape, be it accidentally, intentionally, you take that spoon and you rub the bottom, you try to get the bottom of the food. Every time you scrape that, it's going into your body. So essentially you're eating the styrofoam bits by bits. That's problematic in itself. You understand? So I want to share that. And here's the thing. it's going to take a while for us to come around with the climate change thing, because for a lot of us, we don't see it. It's not right in front of us. And we have Joe Biden running for office. It's taking him a while to come around. There's an article over at the Washington Post. Check this out. How Joe Biden's surprisingly ambitious climate plan came together. And I'm giving you the date for a reason. This was in early August, right? So like the first week of August. And then then late 2019, so early August, there's that article, how Joe Biden and surprisingly ambitious climate plan came together. Then in November 2019, over at Vice News, vice.com, the Sunrise Movement is really struggling to live with Joe Biden. So within the matter of less than a year, they were able to come around and have a conversation with Joe Biden and say, yo, we need you to do these things. And I personally feel the same can be done with climate change for the country to understand it. Now, are you going to have skeptics? With everything, you have skeptics. You're going to have them. You can't help it. You know, like the guy that says, I'm not filling out the census because I don't want the government tracking me, but he got a cell phone. I mean, and it literally says, if he goes to, I'm going to tell you right now, if he goes to, I'll tell you just now. If he goes to settings, then goes to general, then goes to about, then he goes to, wait, I think I messed up. Wait. He goes to settings, then goes to general, and then legal and regulatory, then like right there, like right below legal regulatory certification, there's a symbol, FCC. So he's walking around with the FCC in his pocket, and he's talking about, I don't want to be tracked, or her, for that matter. I'm just picking on the gentleman, right? It's all right there. So, I mean, so you're always going to have skeptic, but he was able to move because Sunrise Movement, this organization, which I'm a little finicky about, I got to learn some more about them. This organization pressed them. But here's the thing. They're not as happy about Joe Biden because he's still on fracking. And I will say this. This is Joe Biden sticking to fracking is the equivalent, maybe not, bad analogy. I was going to say the equivalent to Donald Trump telling his voters he's going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it, right? I say Joe Biden's saying that he's not moving on fracking. It's a power play. Because he knows if he moves on it and says, I'm going to get rid of fracking altogether, he could possibly lose Pennsylvania, Kentucky, right? Places, South Dakota, North Dakota, Texas, places that rely on fracking. What's going to happen eventually, these companies that partake in fracking, they're going to have to shift like anything else just because, because it's not going to be sustainable, right? It's usually called hydraulic fracturing for natural gas. And it's basically known as fracking. What it is, it's a bit like a big ass drill going into the ground to get the oil out the ground, right? And it's bad for the environment because it causes earthquakes, all type of stuff. Tectonical shifts. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or I'm not a seismologist, right? But it's something like that, right? And companies are going to have to shift. They're not going to have any choice because with Joe Biden's, he wants to get to clean energy. He wants the nation to be carbon neutral by 2050, right? And the more people start requesting electric cars, the less there will be need for oil. So there's a shift going on here between Joe Biden and the Sunrise Movement. And I feel like that's going to bring me to the topic about down ballots and slowly we'll get there, right? So walk with me for a minute. So I'm out, I've teamed up, the last interview I did, PG Changemakers, they had a get out the vote registration drive and get out the vote registration drive with another organization, a couple other people. So went out to it. They were there. I met up with some other people, got cool with some of them real quick. started registering people to vote, walking through. And for those of you familiar with Maryland, I was like at Iverson Mall, right? Kind of find out it's one of the lowest turnout voters within Maryland, like one of the lowest districts when it comes to turnout in terms of voting. So it was awesome to do that. In doing that, I did it back to back. I did it this past weekend and I did it last week. And in doing that, you encounter people that's like, man, I'm not voting, yo. Shit don't matter. What's the point? And I keep thinking to myself, through no fault of their own, they were miseducated about the voting process. And I'm not going to bore you with it. If you want to have a conversation about it and you know me, holler at your boy. You know what I mean? We could talk about it. But I'm going to do a crash course in what voting is about. And it's like this. Voting is if there's a 10 steps program, right? Was it 12 step or 10 steps? Let's go 12 step. I think that's it. If there's a 12-step program, voting is the negotiation part of the program, right? So if you're going to enter a 12-step program, usually meet a counselor. I'm guessing, I don't know. I'm not too big on this. You usually meet a counselor, and the counselor, shout out to people who randomly text you and be like, thought about you, hope all is well, because you did it to them like 2 weeks ago. And when I say shout out, that's my sarcastic way of saying, okay, right? Like you hit them, like I just got a text. Like you hit them like 2 weeks prior. You're like, yo, what's good? Haven't heard from you. Everything good? Cool. And then they hit you back and they be like, yo, thought about you, hope all is well. You like, stop it. You only did that. Maybe I should delete that because I don't know who listens to this shit that texts me. But if you listen to this and you text me just now, that shit was probably about you. But yeah. All right. So look, right. So if there's a 12-step program and you're trying to get into that 12-step program, and the part of getting into that program is sitting down with counselors, having a conversation and say, hey, what do you need? This is what we provide. What do you need from us? Okay, we meet your requirements. We need you to meet our requirements. Okay, cool. Sign up, sign here, good. Well, that's how voting is. You look out for candidates and you say to yourself, I like this candidate. Are they speaking what I need? Are they speaking to my issues? And then you vote. You vote for that person. I want to keep catching that T purposely, right? You vote for that person. Then after you vote, the 12-step program begins. Because here's the thing. With any counselor program that has a 12 steps in it, you don't begin the program before you sign and move in. You sign, move in, then you begin the program. No one says, okay, since you didn't sign anything, come on, give it a try. No, you gotta commit. And when you vote for a person, that's your commitment to the cause. So you vote for them, then you keep an eye on them. And when they're not doing what you want them to do, you organize. You build a coalition. And you say, for example, I'm not talking about petty shit. Hey, when you were running for office, I asked you to put a stop sign in my neighborhood. You didn't do it. Now I'm going to I'm going to organize or vote you out. To some people, that may be petty. But to you, you may have a deaf child in the area and people are just flying past and you want a sign that says, deaf child lives here and a stop sign down the street. So I'm not minimizing what you may need. However, I'm just saying there are bigger causes, right? And that's not a reason to vote somebody out. What it is, it's more of a reason to pressure a person. So you watch them. And then when they don't do what you want to do that you think is important, you organize, you build a coalition, and you tell them, I was demanding this as one person. Now I'm demanding this as 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 100 people. I remember this from my global history class where my high school teacher was telling me, Mr. I know his name. I see it. I feel like Mr. Craig, I think his name was. I think that was his name, Mr. Craig. It sounds right. He was telling me the way to infect government is to show up in groups. And I think that's what people miss. People say, oh, I voted, nothing changed. What did you do to make that change effective? I'll wait, possibly nothing. Here we are. You understand? And then the next thing, when you vote and you organize and you build a coalition, then comes the motherfucking power. Because now you have their attention. And when you have their attention, that's when you shift. That's when you move. You understand? And when things start happening, like your sister, your auntie, your niece, your cousin is shot in her home as she's walking to the door about the house, and we're talking about Breonna Taylor. And then an attorney general who's kinfolk to one of the senators of the city that he's the state that he's the attorney general of, he comes forward and basically says, I got nothing for you that this black woman was killed, Breonna Taylor. And remember I talked about the corrupt legal system? The system is corrupt. When the police officer has been proven, Amber Geiger, who was not a police officer at the time, she was a woman coming home who happened to have on a police uniform, walked into the house and shot and killed the man. Right? Both of them John. So we now know once you have a badge and a gun, you could walk into someone's house and kill them. Before it was Philando Castile, he was reaching for something. Walter Scott, my life was in jeopardy. Shot him in the back. Jacob Blake, I thought he was going for something. Shot him in the back. All of that. And now you could be in your home, minding your business. And all they have to have is a little piece of evidence that they lied about. They lied about. And they could come in your home and kill you with no consequences. But you know what happens now? This is where the coalition building happened. So we know when Daniel Cameron is up for election, he got to go. You know Mitch McConnell is up for election. I'll talk about, this is what this episode is about, down ballot, right? It may be hard to beat Mitch McConnell because the person who's running against him, Amy McGrath, she's really just a Republican, right? She's a Joe Manchin. I always say Democrats who have to perform for so-called red states, right? I compare them to Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is a Democratic senator who was once the governor of West Virginia. And that man moves as if he is a Republican. That's Amy McGrath. So that's hard to win because you're not too much to the left. You down the middle. And the black people in Louisville, Kentucky, they see that. They ain't fucking with her. You see what I'm saying? But this is how you do it. You get the attorney general. You vote his ass out. You understand? You go for the governor. You vote his ass out. You go for the senators. You vote their asses out. Here's the thing. Every state has 2 senators. Every single state has 2 senators. Except, obviously, Puerto Rico and D.C. is not a state. But every state has 2 senators. Most people can't tell you who the other senator of Kentucky is because Mitch McConnell gets all of it. Rand Paul is the other senator with that perfect he has a perfect toupee. Rand Paul, him and his dad is racist as fuck, right? But they cloak it in conservatism, right? But Rand Paul has this like perfect toupee. And I'm being sarcastic. It's not perfect because if I can tell it's a toupee, it's not. However, that's how you build, right? You killed this innocent black woman, guilty of nothing. She's innocent. You killed her. Then you learn they did not administer aid to her for minutes. At least it wasn't right away. I can't remember the minutes. They lied on the police report, all that shit. Yo, man, I'm going to tell you, RIP to OG, Starman, Flatbush, Brooklyn. That dude told me when I was 14 years old, he said, yo, the police ain't nothing but a legalized gang. And I was just now coming of age. I didn't know what he was talking about. But as time go on, every year goes on in my life, and I remember him around summertime because that's when he told me. And he was an OG, like straight up OG, right? Like this dude, Starman. I'm gonna give you a little story about Starman real quick. Starman went to jail one time because a police officer was coming down the street, and the story goes like he did not know it was a police officer. He was on the cover. He was gonna steal his bike, so he just clotheslined the police officer off of the bike, just like boom, just knocked him off. And that's how he got arrested. He just would do like crazy shit like that. Fight the police. He didn't care. He looked at them as though, like, I'm a man first. And that's one thing I took from him. When you dealing with the police, I'm a man first. You're going to respect me. I don't care if you have a badge and a gun. You're going to respect me. You understand? So the police ain't nothing but legalized gangs. So here it is. They lie on the police report. They end up killing this woman. And then the attorney general do they bidding. And he comes forward and basically says, oops, sorry. But you know, activists had something to say about it. And Tamika Mallory, who's out in them streets, nothing but respect for her being out in them streets, she had something to say for him. And I'll say, I'm only going to play a clip because I don't wholeheartedly agree with this. And I'm not challenging her in any way. I do not have the clout. I do not have the hustle she has. She's been at it since she was a child. I've probably been at it since my late 20s, early 30s. So I'm not even going to act like I'm coming for her credentials, but I only agree with a little bit of what she said, so I'm only going to play a clip, a little bit of what she said. Hold on, real quick. Here's Tamika Mallory.
That is who you are, Daniel Cameron. You are a coward. You are a sellout. And you were used by the system to harm your own mama, your own black mama. We have no respect for you. No respect for your black skin. Because all of our skin folk ain't our kin folk. And you do not belong to black people at all.
Here's the thing. I played that to show you that's where it begins. Sidebar, if she was talking about me like that, I would be like, Mama, help. You know what I mean? Like he needs to run and hide and never come outside again, right? But I don't know her at all. Never met her, don't know of her, right, as they say. But I know that's where it's going to begin for her. When Danielle Cameron comes up for re-election, she's going to be there registering people to vote because that's where it begins. That's the negotiation process, right? And they're going to hold the next Attorney General of Kentucky accountable. They're going to, I don't know why I was going for the word reliable. They're going to hold him or her reliable. I said it. Accountable. God damn. I try to forget it, but I still said it. My bad. Right? They're going to hold him accountable. Here's the thing. Breonna Taylor family received $20 million for her death. Not enough. Money doesn't replace anything. Breonna Taylor did not receive any justice. Justice for Breonna Taylor would have looked like she was able to live. That's what justice would have looked like for her. You understand? And she didn't receive that. But here's the thing. Money is not an object to this country when it comes to black life. They don't care about the money. A new study came out. According to this NPR article, cost of racism, U.S. economy lost $16 trillion because of discrimination, bank says. 16 with a T. $trillion because of discrimination. Right? And this is according to Citigroup. The nerve of them to do something about discrimination, right? Their history, right? They said, we believe we have a responsibility to address current events and to frame them with an economic lens in order to highlight the real cost of long-standing discrimination against minority groups, especially against black people and particularly in the U.S. That's from Raymond McGuire, vice chairman at the bank and the chairman of its banking, capital markets, and advisory team. Before I go any further, I want to say this about Citigroup. You recognize this discrimination. This discrimination is costing this country $16 trillion. But I ask you, in your management, in your executive level, how many black people are, notice I didn't say people of color, how many black people are within the executive level? I'll be shocked if it's 5, right? So start there. But to give context, the U.S. GDP total is $19.5 trillion. That was last year. That's the GDP for the U.S. GDP for last year. $19.5 trillion. So that's like plus $3 trillion you're playing with, right? So, and this article goes into like discrimination, but it also, in that number, it's death. Like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, right? Natasha McKenna, Ayanna, I believe Ayanna Stanley Jones. I forgive the name. But, within that, there's all of that where all those, all those people who have lost their lives, Ayanna Stanley Jones, a 7-year-old who was killed by the police. Within that number, they talk about discrimination, but they don't talk about the death that has been caused through white supremacist ideology in this country that continues to kill black people. Here's the thing. I'm not going to go through this entire thing because I will presume that most of you listening to me, or if it's one of you listening to me, you're a black person, right? And majority of the people who probably listen to this podcast are black people. So we know the discrimination we faced. I don't have to repeat it for you. The thing is this, if we want this country to change, we have to step up and start understanding the power of our vote. And the power of that vote, I'm going to transition into down ballot voting. It's important that we do so. I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, or I feel like it was a couple of weeks ago. I was, trying to go to sleep, so I turned the TV to something, and there are many people covering this. I just happened to see this one person doing this, and I just happened to turn on Samantha Bee. And she's a comedian. She used to write for, I think, one of the shows. I don't know. It's Samantha Bee. She has a show on TBS, and it's called Full Frontal. And I've checked it out a couple times, and I really like her comedy. It's like that quirky comedy, and so I caught her talking about down ballot voting, and I was like, you know what? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about how important it is to vote down ballot. And it's probably more important than ever before because there's a battle for the U.S. Senate. And here's the thing. If you get the Senate, right? Getting the Senate is important because it's the reason Barack Obama, to quote him, that I guess he could say it better than I can. Here goes.
Yeah, now, I'm not recommending for every future president that they take a shellacking like I did last night. I'm sure there are easier ways to learn these lessons.
It is solely my opinion. The 2010 elections, the midterm elections as they call them, is a fancy. It brought us to where we are today. And I don't think the Democratic Party saw what was ahead. It was a black president. I'm not going to go over it. I'm going to do it like in less than 30 seconds. It was a black president. White America was uncomfortable with that. So they came up with all these type of things. Oh, healthcare. Like what he wants to give you, healthcare. We don't like him. They came up with all these reasons why they did not like him. Right. So they took the power away from him. And the power is in that down ballot voting. The Democratic Party lost 63 seats in the November 2010 elections. In the 2010 elections, they lost 63 seats that quick. And that's just the House. They lost 63 seats. You understand? Now in the Senate, they lost 6 seats. They held on to, they lost 6 seats. And that's where the power went, to the majority. They were, the Republican Party moving forward was able to gain back the majority, right? So the ending of Barack Obama's second term, they had the majority. For 2 years of the Trump presidency, they had the majority. They still have the majority in the House. So for all intents and purposes, I believe they've had the majority for about 4 or 5 years. I believe that would end. And remember what Barack Obama said in that clip? There's other ways to learn about this. So in total, if you think about it, they lost almost 70 seats, right? When he said there's other ways to learn this, the other way is to know where the power lies. The power lies in winning back these down ballot seats. And how we do that? You know, the vulnerable seats. Remember I told you about Samantha Bee. You can see it on YouTube for yourself. The importance of the down ballot races, part 1. Races, not racist, right? Vulnerable Senate seats: Montana, Colorado, Arizona, Kansas, Texas, Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Maine. I'll start with Maine and I'll say this. In Maine, you have Susan Collins, who's a problematic senator. You have, Sarah Gideon that's running against her, which she's poised to take that seat because Susan Collins has really been flying under the radar. You understand? The power is there. And no kidding, I'm not even joking. I just got an email as I'm doing the podcast. I got an email from Mark Kelly. He's running in, and I'll play a clip about this from Samantha Bee. He's running in Arizona against Martha McSally, who never won a seat. She's always been appointed. Her first time in the seat, she was appointed. The second time, she was appointed. So he's running against that. There's power in the down ballot. So I'm making calls for Joe Biden's campaign, full disclosure, and I'm calling people, and I run into this one lady. I really want to say her name because she was so, on point. When I say I run in, I mean phone-wise. Run into this one lady, and she says, "Oh, I'm all geared up. I'm ready to go." She said, "Except there's only one judge I'm unsure about, and her name is Judge O'Donnell, right, in Ohio." And as she's speaking, I'm like, what? I'm like, how does she even know? Like, she's ahead of her game. Like, she knows the deal. I said, I've been making calls, and you're the first person who has spoken to me about down ballot. Everyone else talks about the presidency. And I said, can you remind me? And she talked about the 137 shots. Look, just search that, 137 shots, Ohio. And Judge O'Donnell was the judge in that case. And she said, and that judge has made some, questionable decisions over the time. And she wasn't really cool with that judge, Judge John P. O'Donnell. And I was like, wow, she's aware that judge in a down ballot election can make many a difference. You understand? There's power in there. So the end of this episode, as towards the end of this episode, as we're on the other half of it, I want to tell you through Samantha Bee about the down ballot elections. We talk about the president all the time, but the power is in the House and the Senate. You control the House and the Senate. The political world is yours, proverbially speaking. Well, proverbially speaking, right? So here goes. We're going to go through most of the races that are down ballot. So let's go. Let's do it. We're going to start with South Carolina. You have Lindsey Graham, who's a Republican, who's a Donald Trump henchman. I'll get to that in a second. Hopefully I'll remember. Wait, I got to write it down because I want to talk about that. Who's a Donald Trump henchman, and he's running again. Well, the Democratic challenger is Jamie Harrison. He's running in South Carolina. And if Jamie Harrison is successful, for the first time in a long time, South Carolina will have 2 African-American senators, right? So that's important. And why I'm telling you about this, because all of these are races. If won, you can win back the Senate, and you can have that conversation on what you want the country to look like moving forward. And all this has to play in part, right? Joe Biden has to win. The Democratic Party has to take control back of the Senate. They have to maintain their control in the House. And now they can play ball. And hopefully they play ball like they're supposed to be on some gangster shit like, yo, we got the power and this is what we're going to do with it. Elections have consequences, right? But Jamie Harrison race is not easy. Or will it be easy moving forward? Back in July, Lindsey Graham campaign ran an ad that made Jamie Harris' face look dark. And he's a brown-skinned guy, so it made him appear real dark. And if you know anything about politics, that's an old tactic they use, to make, darker the skin, they might be a criminal. It's an old tactic. You understand? So, and this is happening all across the country. These are powerful races. As I mentioned, Martha McSally in Arizona, she's going up against Mark Kelly, who is the husband of Gabby Gifford. I always get her name mixed up, and I think of Kathy Lee Gifford, and I want, Gabby Giffords. That's it. She's with an S. Gabby Gifford. She's the husband of Gabby Gifford. She's the former congresswoman of Arizona, who was shot in a parking lot while she was not campaigning. She was meet and greet with voters. And then now you have here's Martha McSally. I'll play this clip. Here goes.
In Arizona, there's another competitive race between current Senator Martha McSally and former astronaut Mark Kelly. It's not surprising that McSally could lose her seat because she never actually won it in the first place. McSally lost her first Senate race back in 2018 before being appointed by Arizona's governor to another Senate seat, replacing the guy who replaced John McCain.
And because Martha McSally never really won an election, this is not really an uphill battle. Like, she's going to lose the election. Like, she tried so hard to be like tough Donald Trump. Donald Trump he doesn't even know her name. If you look at this clip of Samantha Bee, The Importance of Down Ballot Races Part 1, you will see that how he struggles to say her name. Martha, he says it all lispy. You know what I mean? But these are important races. Pay attention. Here's the thing. You may not live in any of these states I'm talking about, but your dollar matters. That's the next thing, right? So you vote for a person, you vote for them once, they lose the race, and you never show back up again, and you wonder, why they didn't win? They didn't have money. You understand? So that matters. And, remember we talked about Breonna Taylor, the Attorney General. If you pick, right, if you're Democratic, if the governor you got elected, right, I'm going to use labels. The Democratic governor, he's going to pick a Democratic, Attorney General. And that Democratic Attorney General will know he's on the coattail of the Democratic governor. So therefore, they're not going to play any games because they understand they can lose an election. I guess what I'm saying is this. I'm saying if they know you're holding them accountable, they will do you justice. And I feel this time is different with the Democratic Party. And, well, not the Democratic Party. This time is different the way people look at the Democratic Party and say, we're going to give you one more chance. And if you don't do what we need you to do, we're going to vote you out. Because when you can have a criminal in the White House doing criminal shit and still being a thug, because those were the original thugs. When they use the word thugs, they like to label it to black people. But we know white violence has always been a part of history, right? Native Americans, enslavement, white violence. Last time I checked, a bunch of black people didn't enslave a bunch of Europeans. You know what I mean? So let's call a spade a spade. Like Tamika Mallory said, after one of the George Floyd protests, violence is what you do, America. That's all you know, right? So it's just, where was I going with this? Yeah, I feel like this time the Democratic Party is on notice. And if you think these things don't matter, it matters even more so in a pandemic that, the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, it's on the line because you have, I don't know what the fuck a conservative is. I guess I'll tell you that story about a conservative another time. But, you have a conservative judge going on there, and the Republican Party has always been against Affordable Care Act because Barack Obama came up with it. They're racist. At this point, it's no need in fronting, right? So they've been trying to get rid of it. So it matters. And here's a story of Tom Tillis. I think he spells Tom with T-H-O-M. That should tell you he's problematic to begin with, right? Tom Tillis, a senator from North Carolina, one of his staffers told the woman who is dealing with cancer, to say the least, that basically it's her choice, something like that, right? Like basically he doesn't care, one of his staffers. But this is the mentality of the Republican Party. So here goes.
He's known nationally for when a member of his staff went viral for showing true empathy.
Over the past 20 years, Bev Veals beat cancer 3 times. So when her husband was furloughed in March due to COVID, Veals worried about losing her health insurance. She started calling her lawmakers for guidance and came across a Washington, D.C. staffer for Senator Tom Tillis.
You're saying that if you can't afford it, you don't get to have it, and that includes health care.
Yeah, just like if I want to go to the store and buy a new dress shirt, if I can't afford that dress shirt, I don't get to get it.
So to be clear, one of his staffers felt it was comfortable enough to have a conversation with a woman who is, on the brink of losing her health insurance. And if she do so, she will lose out on that health insurance, right? I felt like I'm repeating myself. Start over. He's having a conversation with a woman who's on the brink of losing her health insurance. If her husband lose his health insurance because she's on her husband's health insurance and she has had cancer before, dealt with it 3 times, as the clip said. And this is the mentality of that senator, Tom with a TH, Tom Tillis, that you can only attribute it, that's his mentality because that's his staffer, right? And is the mentality of comparing healthcare to a shirt. If you can't afford to get the dress shirt, you don't get it. And that's beyond ridiculous, but that's what power looks like. You have people in power who do not have your best interests at heart, right? And I was going to say, it blows my mind that you have these people who are, they're clearly racist because their whole plan is to hurt black people. Look up the Lee Atwater Southern strategy. That's the whole point of it. But you have these white people who will elect these people who end up getting hurt in the end because of these policies. The intention is to hurt black people. This is straight from the mouth of Lee Atwater, and this has been the goal of the Republican Party for 40 years, the Southern strategy. The goal is to hurt black people. You're going to hurt some white people, but in the end, you're going to hurt black people. But you have white people who, continue to vote for people who are harming them, but they don't care because at least I'm not black. That's the mentality. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to talk to you about the down ballot races and let you know that this is a thing, right? Like we have to take this into consideration when we go out and vote, that you don't just show up to vote and hit the button for the president and disappear. No, look at that governor, look at the senator, look at the congressman, look at the mayor, look at the city council, look at the sheriff, look at the judges. Here's the next thing. When you go to vote, there's no time limit on when you could be at that poll. If you want to stand there for 3 hours to make a decision, right? If you want to stand there for 8 hours to make a decision, stand there and make 8 hours to make a decision, right? Do it. Use your smartphones. Like Killer Mike said in that one interview, use your Googles. You got a smartphone in your pocket. Use it. And, as this go on, I want you to do your own research. Take your smartphone out because it feels as though the media hasn't gotten the point that our fucking democracy is in jeopardy and they want to continue to play this game, right? As if it's both sides. Sorry about that. I try to play a clip and I press play too quick, right? As if it's both sides, when in fact we're dealing with a criminal. To quote, what's the lady, man? I always talk about her. To quote Sarah Kendzior, right? That about the Trump administration, right? She used this wonderful quote about him, and I never want to mess it up. And this is her referring to who Donald Trump and his henchmen are. This is a transnational crime syndicate operating as a government. She always said masquerading as a government. This is a transnational crime syndicate masquerading as a government. Simple and plain. But the media refuses to this day to see that, to see this is a crime syndicate, right? You have so many people around him who's been convicted, found guilty, doing prison time. And then you have Gayle King that would do something like this.
You're right.
No wasted time.
Tuesday is a big debate, the first debate between the two of them, between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You had earlier suggested that you didn't think Biden should debate. Do you still feel that way?
I do. Not that I don't think he'll be excellent. I just think that the president has no fidelity to fact or truth, and actually in his comments the last few days, no fidelity to the Constitution of the United States. He and his henchmen are a danger, with their comments, are a danger to our democracy. So I don't want to give him, why bother? He doesn't tell the truth. He isn't committed to our Constitution.
But Speaker Pelosi, that's what people say is the problem. Your language is, to some, is just as egregious as what they're saying by calling the president's people henchmen. Some could say that's just as insulting as what he's saying about you.
No, well, I don't care what he says about me. Every knock from him is a boost for me. If he wants to help me raise money, he can keep knocking me. But I'm speaking truth. Our Constitution is at the mercy of people who have no allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. They have repeatedly demonstrated that. Now that the president has said what he has said.
Gayle King got offended because she said, some people said, I don't know who, majority of the people that did not vote for Donald Trump believe him and his henchmen, the Republican Party. She got offended because Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House from California, the great state of California, as they say, she called the current president and the Republican Party henchmen. She refers to them as henchmen, and she got offended. And it's like, what? Have you not been paying attention to what's going on? Clearly she is not. But, yeah. It's just go ahead and, research for yourself, fill out your census. Don't be afraid to stand there, research the judges, plug it in Google, plug it in Bing, plug it in Yahoo, whatever search engine you use it. I'm telling you, you have people that know how to navigate Facebook, Instagram, but don't know how to do real research. And that's problematic. That's problematic in itself. I don't blame them. But I feel as though if you're going to make a decision and you're unsure at the voting booth, or guess what? This is the best time to do it because most people will be voting at home. So now is the perfect time to search, look their names up, right? Whatever they're running for. If they're running for a Congress seat, put, John Smith, 4th Congressional District of New York. I don't know, right? Something like that. Look it up. It's all there for you. And I'm going to keep bringing you this heat. Don't forget, tomorrow, Tuesday, September 29th is the first presidential debate. Tune into Joseph R. Biden, the former vice president of the United States, debating with the current president of the United States, John, what's his name? Oh, I was going to say John. Donald J. Trump, the J stand for Don. Donald J. Trump. And look forward to Joe Biden being eloquent, articulate, concise, to the point, and look forward to Donald Trump being a fucking liar and all he knows how to be is a criminal. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you come back next week. And if this is your first time tuning in and if you made it to the end, I'm going to tell you this right now. Come a little closer. I appreciate you. Hip Hop Generation, we out.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.